Hi there, Simon from simonwood.com. I have 5 Rieslings in front of me, 3 from a German winery called Guthermansberg, Hill, and then 1 from New Zealand and 1 from Australia. I've got them, I don't know whether I've got them in the right order. There is only one way to find out. I've got them roughly vintage order, but then there's two dry ones from the German people and a off-dry one. No idea how sweet it is. First one, though, is from New Zealand, and it's Tin Pot Hut Turner Vineyard, a Riesling from Marlborough, 2012 vintage, weighing in at 10% alcohol, which makes me think it may have a little bit of residual sugar in there, but we shall see. Now, it's the start of November here, so it's a pretty young wine. I mean, 6-7 months old, and it's one of the first things I smell is this slightly candied edge of dolly mixtures. It's a character I get in quite a few young wines, but it's also a character I get in slightly older ones from older Rieslings from New Zealand. I'm always in two minds about New Zealand Riesling and whether I like it or not. I like the full fleshy Central Otago ones. Some of the Marlborough ones seem a bit on the fey side. Not quite sure what this one is going to be. It's probably not fair tasting it at this early age, but I'm going to do it anyway. Actually, it's pretty nice. Zippy, zesty. It's got things like lime rather than lemon, and maybe even a little bit of something like clementine. Mandarin orange type of character. Round it all, there's this framework of acidity and there's this touch of minerality. And yes, I'd say we're off dry, but what you really don't notice, it's certainly not a sweet wine by any means, particularly with that acidity to counterbalance the sweetness. So it's one of those that, yes, I'd certainly pull it out with food, but because of that touch of sweetness, I'd try it with some slightly spicy stuff. I think that would go down rather nicely. Yeah, it's funny because it's this sweet core of very, very ripe, tinned mandarin oranges rather than as much as fresh ones, and but then this dry finish. I think I'm not sure what the residual sugar is there, but I think there's a bit, but not too much. Let's start on these German guys. So I've got 2 dry ones from them, as I said, and we're in the Nahe here, a region that probably deserves a far wider audience than it gets. I mean, German labels, they're trying to slim them down and put as few words as possible on here. So this is a good start. So I look at it, it's got Guthermansberg, the name of the winery, and Niederhauser, the name of the vineyard. If it just says Niederhauser on, as opposed to, well, just have a look at the label for the last one where it says Spätlese. If it just says Niederhauser, it's going to be a dry wine. Another way that you can tell is alcohol levels. This one is 12% alcohol, as is the one next door to it, whereas the off-dry one is 9%. So it's got some unfermented sugar in there. Anyway, quit the waffle, let's taste. Now, the Tin Pot Hut is it's a pretty drink. Here, you're in something that's altogether a little bit more serious. And so I stick my nose in there, and yes, it is fruity. It has got those elements of citrus fruit, maybe some apple in there as well. But it's more this undercurrent of soil that comes through. There's a bit of sulfur dioxide there that's making it a little bit awkward to taste at the moment, or to smell at the moment. But underneath, it feels like there is something that is sleek but rich, and isn't that how we like them? Oh, I love that. There's that stealing minerality to it. Things like herbs, and this mixture of richness with the sweet and sour. And when I say sweet, it's a dry wine, but there's this quite voluptuous citrus fruit, if that makes sense. When I think of voluptuous fruit, I usually think of things like more exotic, like pineapple and passion fruit, but here it is really ripe citrus, but it's playing not quite second fiddle, but it's got equal billing with the character of the soil. It seems to have sucked something out of there. The earthy herb. There's some slaty character there. Not quite sure what the makeup of the vineyard is here, but not sure whether it's going to say on the back. No, it doesn't say anything on the back. But altogether a more grown-up wine than the Tin Pot Hut. The Tin Pot Hut's nice, but this is more serious. Let's try its brother from Schloss Bockelheim. So this is called Schloss Bockelheimer, and again 2010 vintage, 12% alcohol. This one's playing higher up the scale. I get those similar type of fruit flavours, but it doesn't feel like it's going to be as rich and deep and profound. But it's got more, it's more higher melody line. Maybe this is the bass and this is the higher melody. But again, it smells like it's the fruit and it's the soil, and the two sitting together rather nicely at the moment. I'm never quite sure with the modern style of German dry wines whether you should be drinking them at this stage, or whether they are all the better for 4 or 5 years. I do like them like this, where you can tell the difference between the different vineyards. But anyway, I better taste it, haven't I? Oh, that's really good too. And I was saying about, like, maybe the first one is a bit more bassy and slatey, stony, and this one, I don't know whether there's a volcanic element here, but there's yes, it's got this. It feels like higher up the musical register, if you want to put it that way, but still quite a profound wine. I'm really not quite sure which I prefer. I think they're both great. I think they're both quite different, but. Do you know what? I'd love to sit down with a glass of each of these and polish off a rather large piece of well-cooked fish. And I've got a feeling that at the end of it, I still wouldn't know which I prefer. They're both really good. Let's see how Australia can cope after those two. This is Lewin Estate Art Series Riesling from Margaret River, 2010 vintage. As with these two, weighing in at 12% alcohol. This is also quite tight and limey. I miss some of the earthy profundity of the ones before, but it's a step up for me from the Tin Pot Hut. Here it feels like there's going to be some grip, a bit of mineral character, not as strong a mineral character as the previous two, but the apple, citrus, and this stony edge as well. Now when you come to taste it, there's like a floral character. It feels like there's quite a lot of richness, and I don't think there's actual out and out sweetness in there, but I wouldn't be surprised if there were a few grams of sugar just to round it out, because the finish you're left with is really quite rich. Maybe it doesn't have the mineral intensity of the previous two, and probably suffers as a result of being after those, but hey, it's older, so that's why I put it there. But nice wine, and I think without these two, I'd be probably crowing a little bit more about it, but I do like it. Yeah, nice tang and freshness. Bring on the seafood. Bring on wine number 5. Back to Gut Hermannsberg. So this is the Rottenberg vineyard. Not sure where. Altan, from the village of Altem Bamberger. But they've just put Rottenberg, the name of the vineyard, on here, and it's Spätlese, a late harvest. So coming at 9% alcohol. Let's give it a whirl. Well, it's 2011, so it's still on the young side. It doesn't feel like it's going to have quite the gravitas of the two drier wines. I get a touch of jelly there, and maybe it's on the young side. It's funny. I got a mandarin orange note on the Tin Pot Hut. I get a little touch of that there. It smells like it's going to be good, but not as classy as the previous, as its two dry friends. And then you come to taste it, and suddenly it goes, hey. Really nice balance between the sweetness and the acidity. So you do get those that off dry, honeyed. I was talking about jelly. I get that mandarin jelly right at the back, but it's more this honeyed, appley richness, like slightly cooked green apple richness. Not maybe the mineral notes at the moment that you get there, but what I find about the sweetness, sometimes the sweetness masks those notes. And I was saying about these two, as they age, do they necessarily get better or just change? The vineyard, I think, is talking louder here. Here, it's that little touch of sweetness that's maybe got the loudest voice, and the mineral edge, I think, will come through with time. So I'd watch this. I'd drink these and I'd watch this, because I've got a feeling that I'm not seeing it quite. Maybe it's because it's a year younger, and I think 2011 was a slightly more challenging vintage than 2010. But it's growing on me. I mean, the flavour I'm left with is really, really tasty. It's got this mixture of sweetness and sourness, richness and poise, and that's what Riesling should be. intriguing, and I'll keep an eye on actually all of these wines. I wouldn't be surprised if the Tin Pot Hut showed a little bit better for time relaxing into its bottle. But these two dry ones from Gut Hermannsberg, by far and away my favourites of this. I wouldn't be surprised if the Spätlese crept up in the near future. Whether it'll get a chance to or not, we shall see. I will see you soon.